Beautiful people, how are you today? So, I'm excited to do this video today, but then I'm kind of not because I feel like I've been talking about nonprofits too much, and I kind of want to move on to other things because there's so much I can talk about. But um, I'm gonna talk about it anyway, simply because today is the day that I decided to create a church. Something that I've joked about before, but I'm definitely doing it, no doubt about it. And I've decided that today. So I want to talk to you about how to create a church, why create a church, what the benefits are, and the cost and so forth. So number one, creating a church is no different than creating any other nonprofit. It's the same form that you'll use to fill out the nonprofit, which is the 1023 EZ. If you plan on bringing in less than 50 grand a year, that link to that form is on a previous video I did concerning nonprofits. Other than that, I mean, it's just simply saying kind of what you believe in, what you plan on doing with your church, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing with mine. But first, I want to show you a few things here to kind of back up what I'm saying. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, okay, and remember, there's a thin line between tax evasion and tax avoidance. The reason I'm doing this is because as a church, I will be able to pay myself as a pastor. As a pastor, I'm allowed what's called a housing allowance, okay? And so what my game plan is to literally pay myself as the pastor, right? Exactly what I spend in rent for the year. That's my game plan, okay? Now, that rent will be a housing allowance. That housing allowance is exempt from personal income taxes. It is not exempt, however, from self-employment tax. There is a form that you can file to make that housing allowance exempt from self-employment tax as well. Whether or not I'm going to do that, I don't know yet, but I may try it just because. Of course, the IRS has to approve it, but it's a very simple thing. It's Form 4361. I'm going to show that to you now. All right, here we go. So 4361. And what this says is, it says that I certify that as a duly ordained, commissioned, or licensed minister of a church or a member of a religious order not under a vow of poverty, I have informed the ordaining, commissioning, licensing body of my church that I am conscientiously opposed to, or because of religious principles I am opposed to, the acceptance for services I perform as a minister or as a member of a religious order of any public insurance that make payments in the event of death, disability, old age, or retirement, or that makes payments toward the cost of or provides services for medical care, including the benefits of any insurance system established by the Social Security Act. Okay? Now, this is how I feel about this, okay? And I told you I was going to talk to you a little bit about my church. Personally, I don't do this for pay. I really don't, And so the idea about being conscientiously opposed to this whole thing is that I don't want the pay that I receive as a minister to be used as an investment. I don't want that, right? And I'm well within my rights to reject that, because that's what Social Security and Medicare is. You pay into it in the hopes that you'll get more out of it than what you put into it. That's an investment, right? That's what Social Security is. Now, that doesn't mean that my other income can't be put towards Social Security, because it is, and I can draw my Social Security. But the money that I make as a minister, I don't want that to go towards that, because that's not why I do it. The other thing that I plan on doing to really cement this whole housing allowance thing is that I'm going to open up my place to couch surfer. It's something that I've thought about for a while. I actually created an account on Couchsurfer. I just haven't posted anything. And so the idea will be that, you know, if you really are in need of a place to crash, you know what I mean, I have a spot for you. And if you're in need of respite, or if you want to come and talk or learn, you know, there's a spot for you. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's something that we can all aspire to, right? If you haven't heard of Couchsurfer, please go check it out. It's a wonderful thing. It's part of the sharing economy, just like Airbnb. The difference is that Couchsurfer is not for profit, right? Couchsurfer is literally someone maybe needing a place to crash for the night or whatever. And then typically you can work out, you know, maybe they wash dishes or something like that in exchange for staying for the night. It's usually not like a long-term thing. It's really a social thing. And so what happens is you have these groups that form around this Couchsurfer society, right? I met one when I was traveling in Puerto Rico this past year. I talked to this guy, and it sounded really cool. You know, they have like book clubs and stuff like that, right? It's like a Couchsurfer book club, and they get together and they hang out and read books and discuss different ideas and stuff like that. And so I think I want to do that. And so that'll be my way of verifying and validating my housing allowance and making that basically tax-free. And for me, that's talking about almost $10,000 a year tax deduction. So something that I'm definitely doing. I've decided it's happening. What I don't have yet is a name. I don't quite have a charter. I have some ideas, but that's what I'm doing. All right, so I want to also show you, just to make sure I back myself up here, about the housing allowance. All right, so again, this is IRS tax topics, and as always, this information will be in the description of the video. This is a housing allowance. It says a minister who receives a housing allowance may exclude the allowance from gross income to the extent it's used to pay expenses in providing a home. Generally, those expenses include rent, mortgage interest, utilities, and other expenses directly relating to providing a home. The amount excluded cannot be more than reasonable compensation for the minister's services. If you own your home, you may still claim deductions for mortgage interest and real property taxes. If your housing allowance exceeds the lesser of your reasonable compensation, the fair rental value of the home, or your actual expenses directly relating to providing a home, you must include the amount of the excess in income. Okay, so what that simply means is that, let's say, and this is a topic of discussion that I have with my clients all the time, specifically when it comes to corporations and receiving a W-2, you know, W-2ing yourself from your corporation, is the IRS has this thing called reasonable compensation, right? Well, what is reasonable compensation? It's really left up to your definition. You can't W-2 yourself for $1. You can't do that. Not if the company is profiting 50 grand a year, right? That's not reasonable. But you can definitely get away with maybe W-2ing yourself $20,000 if the profit is 50 grand. So that means you're only going to pay self-employment tax on that 20 and not the rest of that. So I'm going to have to do a video on that as well, because I just realized I haven't talked about that before. So anyway, what this said about the housing allowance, though, was that if my reasonable compensation as a minister is, let's say, $5,000 a year, if the fair market value of the rental for the year is, let's say, $10,000, then I would exclude $5,000 from my gross income and pay taxes on the $5,000. Okay, so I mean, it's a win-win no matter how you look at it. Even if I'm excluding $1,000, it's a $1,000 tax deduction, right? For doing something I do anyway, because I preach. Any chance I get, you know, I get that from my dad, and he preached to me, and he would say the same things over and over and over again until they stuck in my mind, and I understand why he did it, you know, because he wanted to make sure that I understood certain things and I got certain things while he was here. And so I do the same thing with my friends, with my family, with my god kids, and So yeah, I mean, if I'm preaching, right? If there's something, a moral, a value, if I have an ethical standpoint that I stand on and I abide by, then that is my religion. That is my church. Um, so that's what I'm all about. Financial freedom, financial literacy, and about spreading that. I have had um, the the opportunity to speak at some schools and some churches and stuff like that. And any chance I get, I want to make sure I get the information out to God's people and bless them with what I've been blessed with. So that's what the church will be. I've already had some ideas for like some T-shirts and stuff like that that I think I can put out there. Maybe even turn some of these videos into a book. There's some freelancers on Fiverr that will charge not a whole lot of money to transform your video into written word, and maybe that's something that I can sell. Intellectual property. Why not? So anyway, something else that I was looking at in preparation for the video has to do with state law concerning religion. This is very interesting. Something I really didn't know. Here it is, and it's called RFRA. Okay, this was signed into law by President Bill Clinton. Okay, and what it simply says is, it mandates courts use the following when considering religious liberty cases. Strict scrutiny. Religious liberty can only be limited for a compelling government interest. If religious liberty is to be limited, it must be done in the least restrictive manner possible. And so that tells you that if you create a religion, now this is not just a church, this is creating a whole religion, right? If you create a religion and it's recognized by the IRS as a religion, whatever is in your charter, whatever are your beliefs, can only be limited very strictly, right? They can't just limit it, right? It's very strictly. And there's a great number of states that have adopted this particular law. The case concerning Hobby Lobby is one of the more famous cases where Hobby Lobby says, even though government mandates that we pay for contraception, we're not doing it. That goes against our religious freedom. And they won that case because you cannot restrict religious freedom, and that was their religious right to do so. And so, I'm thinking about some of my religious rights that I would like to see on paper, right? Religious rights that I don't want stepped on. And so I'm going to construct something and come up with it. But no matter what, I'm definitely creating a church, no matter what. Whether or not it's going to be some other religion, I don't know. But it's definitely going to be a church, no doubt. So I think that's it. I think that's good enough. Again, I'll put these links in the video description so you'll have them. I may also include the link for the 1023EZ again, so you'll have that. Again, it's $275, and that allows you to create your own church, your own religion, and again, you have a housing allowance. Oh, another thing, and I didn't pull this up, but I will now, just in case someone doesn't believe me. But homes that are owned and operated by churches, okay, it can be a house, it can be whatever, right? Do not pay property tax, okay? And when I say this stuff, people don't always believe me, so I want to make sure. Now, of course, this is going to be a state-by-state thing, but I'm going to go so far to say that most states Most states are going to do this. This one is Washington. Property tax exemption provided under blah, blah, blah is available for real and personal property owned by a non-profit recognized religious denomination used exclusively for religious worship and related church purposes. A personage does not need to be contiguous to the church to qualify for exemption. All right, now that's Washington. Now that parsonage, okay, that parsonage is a housing allowance for the minister. It says it does not need to be contiguous. It means it does not need to be connected to the church to qualify for the exemption. Okay, so that's Washington, because most of my family is in Texas and Louisiana. Let's see. No. Property tax exemptions. Here we go. Texas Comptroller. This is not. See, this is why I pull up stuff before I go on live. Church taxes. Application for, there we go. So there's an application for religious organization property tax exemption. Okay. So it is an application that you have to fill out and of course be approved for. Let's just blow it up here. Uh-oh. All right, okay. Really, I swear, all these pop-ups. There we go. All right, here we go. All right, so this is application, and I'll throw this in the description too, just cause I'll have to go back to get the actual. Oh, there it is. Form 50-117 says this application applies to property that is owned or leased by an organization that qualifies as a religious organization pursuant to tax code section 11.20. This application applies to property you own or lease from a political subdivision of the state on January of this year, acquired during the year. Such property qualifies for an exemption under tax code if the property is used primarily as a place of regular religious worship and is reasonably necessary for engaging in religious worship, or meets the qualifications of tax code section 1120 as real property consisting of an incomplete improvement that is under active construction. Okay, so that's if it's being constructed and intended to be used as a place of regular religious worship. So again, my whole idea is that with the whole couch surfer thing, that'll again validate my reasons for my home to be considered a place of religious worship, right? Not only that, but you know, the videos and things that I plan on doing are primarily going to be from home, right? And so yeah, I mean this is happening. I'll probably get this done maybe another couple weeks or something like that. It'll take a while for it to process and get approved, but I made my decision. It's happening. I've joked about it in the past, but it's coming to fruition. It's gonna happen. I have to. I gotta walk the walk, right? Anyway, from me to you, I holla.